Hello friends, I'm Kayla. Welcome to a new monthly series on my channel. This is the first of 12 episodes of completing my own reading challenge. This is the first time I have ever participated, and I'm committing to participating in the Buzzword Reading Challenge, where every single month there is a prompt. There is a title that you're supposed to find, a word or a theme of words, and you read the book, you check off the challenge. So you're gonna get, I think, a short vlog from me near the beginning of every single month this year where I complete the challenge. There's a secondary challenge where you read a cover-based theme. So the theme might be find a cover with a pattern, find a cover with a weapon, something in nature. So of course I'm going to complete that as well. And what if I find the perfect book to successfully fulfill both of the challenges? Well, in that case, since I want every single vlog to have 2 books, I've already completed that with one, so now I have an open slot for the other. And what I'm gonna fill that with, I'm gonna reward myself by reading something, a sequel in a series that I've started recently and am loving. So we've got the Locked Tomb series where there's like 2 more books to read and I'll be caught up. There's the Magnolia Park series where I think there's like 4 books for me to read. There's the Veronica Speedwell series that has maybe 6 books or 5 books for me to read. So if I was strategic enough with these challenges every single month, I could be up to date with all of these book series by the end of the year. Do I think realistically that's gonna happen? No, maybe like half of the months I see myself completing the challenge, one book that fits both challenges, and then I get to read something from the series. There are definitely books out there that exist that fulfill both challenges, but is it going to be books that I actually want to read? I don't know. So with me participating in the Buzzword Reading Challenge, my #1 goal is to read things that I want to read. Things on my TBR, new releases, stuff that intrigues me that also fits with these prompts. The secondary challenge is to perhaps complete both challenges with one book and then continue on in series. Most of these Buzzword vlogs are gonna kick off with a book shopping excursion. We can go to the bookstore together, look for things that fit the theme, and I'm gonna take my mom with me. Normally I do a book of the month membership for her, and every month she picks something out. There's, limited offerings, so I figured we would go to the bookstore on the first of every month instead. And then we're sharing with you everything that we're picking up for the month. Are you camera ready? Are you feeling cute?
Oh, every day.
Today is 30% off all hardcovers. I know. I also have a gift card from Christmas and I need to use it. Say hello.
Hello.
I'm looking for something with lie or lies or truth in the title.
Okay.
Did you know I have a reading challenge?
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but
okay,
I know
well,
you have one.
Every month I have a title challenge and I have to find a book with a certain word in the title, and this one's about lies and truth.
Right.
And then I also have a cover challenge where I have to find a book cover with a pattern on it. So if I can,
that's pretty vague.
so if I can find something with lie and truth and a pattern, I win at life.
All right, I'm on it. Oh, I couldn't see that one.
Wait a minute, would you call this a pattern? I mean, it's pattern.
It's pattern-esque.
All right. So many options. It's like overwhelming. I think I should get her into Robin Hobb. But I also don't know what the first book of the series would be. So I need to do some research. Assassin's Apprentice sounds right. Book 1 of the Farseer trilogy. Have you heard of this? Okay, I'm gonna buy you this regardless, and then you can pick something for yourself. Because I think the girlies would tell you to read Robin Hobb.
George R.R. Martin blurbed it.
Yeah, she's like a thing. She's like a whole thing. Okay. Oh, I need this one. There's one of these left. I hate this new cover of The Will of the Many. It might like portray it better, but I love this one and I've been wanting it. Look what I just found. What?
Oh, there you go. That's, yeah.
My mother just informed me that when we were doing the Goodreads video and she texted me the book to read, she meant this one and not an Academy for Liars. She sent me like the little blurb description of this book, but the cover of the other book. And I just didn't make the connection that it didn't sound exactly the same. Because it did say Dark Academia. And I was like, oh, an Academy for Liars. This is also Dark Academia. I'm gonna buy it. Got more lies. Listen for the lie. Is this everything you grabbed?
Yeah.
You're so fast.
So I get to, not those.
Oh, I was
Somebody
like,
else left those here.
I was like, what? Okay, here's what I bought. The Tainted Cup. Your turn.
My turn? I have no idea how to spell or pronounce her name.
Look, it's
Armand
Trout.
Armand Trout?
Yeah.
Armand Trout. White Hot Kiss. And Assassin's Apprentice. Robin Hall.
You're gonna have to keep them updated next month. We're gonna have to check in.
Oh, okay.
And you're gonna tell them how it went.
Okay.
I grabbed The Center by Ayesha Manazir Siddiqui. I got Entitlement by Rumaan Alam. And because this is like the last time I can ever get this cover, I thought I would go ahead and buy The Will of the Many. As she so kindly pointed out to me in the store, I didn't get anything with Truth or Lie in the title because I read the first chapter of Society of Lies. It was not for me. And I read the first chapter of Listen for the Lie, and that one was, but it's on Book of the Month, and I have a couple credits left over. So I'm going to go ahead and order it and then read it. Also, there's a podcast, and I think that the audiobook might be good. And that's my plan. It doesn't have a pattern on the cover, so we just have to survive.
One of those did, though, didn't it? That's a pattern.
You're not wrong. Wait, but no, you buy books and they sit on your TBR shelf for 3 years. Isn't that...
No.
I'm supposed to read this right now?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Today is the day my book of the month arrived. I was just sitting here taking Instagram pictures, or Etsy shop pictures. I'll also post some of them on Instagram. For my mommy's bookmark business, there is some really pretty stuff happening, and this is our first restock in like a month. So if you ever wanted one, there are some really pretty things about to go up. But then I got a knock on my door and it's snowing out, so I had to go grab it before my books got wet. I've had a book in my cart for a minute, but I had to order like one of the actual book of the... I had to wait until I was interested in a book of the month before I could get any of their like backlist ones. I think that's how it works. I've had these credits for a while, so I used 3 of them. Because the book of the month I selected is A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall. I've read from this author before, and I'm interested to know if this one goes well. It takes place in an isolated winter retreat, and I just like books that take place in like a secluded kind of environment, like meeting your partner's family for the first time. They're very wealthy. It just sounds like there's gonna be family drama. This is the one that I've wanted, The Wedding People. I like getting the book of the months using my credits for things that I already know that I've enjoyed, and I gave this a 4-star. So I picked that one. And then the one we're all waiting for, Listen for the Lie. This one I'm definitely excited to do like a tandem read with the audiobook and reading it physically. This is on so many people's, since I like picked this, I've seen it on so many people's wrap-ups of the year of their favorites on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. This is a real like standout one of the year. So I hope it goes super good for me. And I wanted to, okay, there's a couple things I wanted to update you on. One, I will be reading The Will of the Many. I'm not going to be reading it for this, but I will be reading it in another video. So if you or my mom are disappointed by me not reading it for this one, don't worry, it's coming. This, I could almost, like, if I really wanted to stretch it and be a little unfair in my own challenge, I could call this a pattern, right? Like, maybe there's something patterny about the cords, but also, if you zoom in really close, there's the plug in, like the cable. It has stripes on it, and that could be a pattern. But I also wanted to give you a couple ideas. That one of the reasons of putting this video out at the beginning of each month, like my first vlog of each month is what I'm hoping for, is that you have some ideas for how to complete the challenge if you want to do 2 books in one. This challenge is on Storygraph, and so many people are adding book ideas for both of the challenges and both of the categories. But here are some ideas if you want to complete 2 in one. Some books I didn't like complete the challenge. Dangerous Lies. This one has like rain, so the pattern in the speckles is definitely a pattern. None of this is true. Those houses are definitely a pattern. One of Us is Lying, the notebook paper. I also didn't love the lying game, but the rope definitely makes good pattern. And I did like Last True Poets of the Sea, and I think the seaweed would be good for a pattern. Then some ones I haven't read, but are definitely contenders, like for you. And could be for me, I guess, if I hadn't picked this one. Tell Me Lies. The title is literally repeating itself. The Making of Biblical Womanhood is one of the best that I've seen. Very clear pattern. I Can See Your Lies. 2 Truths and a Lie. Never Lie If You're a Frieden McFadden girly. And then the Berenstain Bears and the Truth. Those polka dots on Mama Bear. Is that her name? Like crush it with that. Another idea is Nothing But the Truth. The stars on it. And What Lies Between Us with the brick. Also Society of Lies with the windows and the brick. I wish Society of Lies worked for me. The first chapter, I just didn't jive with the writing style. It was a little too, I don't know what it was. There was a quality I was not liking. But then I do own The Lies Between Us by John Mars. So I read the first chapter of that just to make sure it wasn't the perfect pick for me. And I think I will still read it one day. I know people talk about how it has a really great twist, but there was a woman and she was like stuck inside all the time, and another woman was helping her out, and then we were from that other woman's perspective, and she was like, there's this man and he's done terrible things to us both. And I think it'll be interesting to read someday, but not exactly in this moment. What worked for me with Listen for the Lie is it was a little almost goofy, like the writing style of it. Basically, there's this woman, and I can't even remember her name. What is your name? Lucy. Lucy is accused, well, like kind of was accused or is suspected of killing her best friend. So there was a wedding and her best friend Savvy ended up dead after it, and she was found afterwards with like blood on her, and she doesn't have any memories of the event. And now the story's being brought back up. This is like years later because a podcaster is making an episode on it, or an entire series on it, and she's getting contacted again by people. She's like getting found out by people. She lost her job. She's about to lose her boyfriend. So now she's going to go back to her small town for her grandma's birthday, and I guess she's going to like decide to participate in this podcast. He's interviewing like everybody he can, friends and family of Savvy, like exes, and just various people. So she's struggling, but there's something about the tone that it's told in where she's just like not taking anything too seriously, and she's like, just the way she's speaking about this guy she's dating, the way she's speaking about her grandma, the way her grandma's talking, it's all just very like fun. Her grandma was like, oh, you need to come back to for my birthday party because all of my other grandchildren are assholes and I can't just have a party full of assholes. One thing I'm especially hopeful for is that it's not one of those stories that's just like too easy, and it's where you have a character who has repressed memories, and the second they step back into the environment that a terrible thing happened, they just get all of their memories back. I feel like it's too cheap and too easy, but it always happens in these types of stories. Whether or not that's a realistic thing to happen, it's just like books tend to like draw out situations like that when the character could have gone back to a certain location, 50 pages into the book, but instead it's not until the last chapter and they decide to go back and they're like, oh, maybe this will help my memories, and then suddenly all their memories come back, because the biggest point of this book is that she can't remember anything. She doesn't remember what happened at all the night of the wedding. So she equally wants the podcaster to kind of figure out what happened too, because if it was her, I guess she wants to know. And if it wasn't, like the police didn't do anything to really find out who it was in the end, so she wants to know who killed her best friend. And I'm sure we're gonna get so many details about like the girls weren't exactly who they thought they were. They didn't have the exact friendship everybody thought, and there's gonna be all these secrets revealed, and I'll be listening for the lie. I am positively flying through this experience. It has been really interesting. It's been a fun writing style, like I said. The audiobook is just so engaging because it has it sounds like a podcast, and there's different people who are doing the parts of the interviews, and it's just very well produced, but it's also a good read physically. So it's just kind of the best of both worlds. The font is very large, so it's only 330 pages, but it feels even shorter because there's really not a lot on each page. But at 50% of the way, I am getting bored. I'm kind of ready for us to pivot into something else. What I'm not loving is Lucy's internal voice. She has clearly had kind of a psychological break, whether or not she's responsible for the horrific things that happened. She has this voice in her head that's and she's constantly imagining how to kill people, how to murder people. She's convinced that she's murdered someone, so she just is constantly thinking oh, how could I kill this person? How could I kill this person? Sometimes it's fun. She somebody shows up at her door with wine, and she's like, how am I gonna stop killing people if they show up with their own murder weapon? How am I supposed to resist? And we go through moments frequently of her picturing smashing someone's head open or killing somebody, and it feels a little cheesy. What's been fun is there's a little bit of banter between her and the podcast guy. She really doesn't want to like him, and then they start meeting up and talking about things, and she's keeping a lot to herself. She's trying to figure out what to expose and if she wants to be on the podcast. It took her a while to listen to the podcast to begin with, so he's actively making it while he's on location in Texas, and she's also there. And there's what maybe is some flirtation between them, and I think I like it. I don't know if this is supposed to be in like go in a romantic direction, but I think I would like if it did. The book is definitely setting up well different people that you could suspect who did it, and you're waiting for their interviews or you're waiting for other people to talk about that person in interviews. The balance is good between the podcast and Lucy's actual internal thoughts, and spending time with people that she hasn't in a while, and like how everybody is receiving her. I'm having a decent time with it. It's very readable. I'm not loving any of the plot points, but the writing is keeping me engaged. So we'll see how it goes. Well, I just finished Listen for the Lie, and I think that I understand the broad appeal of this. I think it's a thriller that makes sense from 2024 that a lot of people were into. It is generally entertaining. It's easy to read. It has some twists and turns. I saw all of them coming, but I don't think that really makes the book bad because there's still so much going on. And there was like a little reveal actually, maybe halfway through that caught me off guard, to do with the character's past. And it has some important things to say. People probably appreciated how it was highlighting different types of violence. And I have absolutely no like issues with this. It just fell into a lot of thriller tropes, ones that I was worried it was going to. I would give it a pretty low score for uniqueness, but I would give it a higher score for entertainment value. A reason you might not like this is if you hate characters who aren't super likable. She's pretty like nonplussed about murder, people thinking that she murdered somebody. It also reads pretty youthful in my mind. You could take these characters and age them down and put them in high school and have it like her friend died at the prom instead of a wedding, and you wouldn't have to change too much else about the story to make it make sense for teens. Like the snarky attitude of the main character could definitely put people off. I liked it. Apparently this author primarily writes YA or wrote YA before this one, and I think you can definitely see that. She's also making a lot of bad decisions, and it makes sense for her character. And again, like I didn't have a problem with it, but it might be something that you don't like if you don't like a character who's like romantically or sexually linked to like various people and not just like thinking ahead a lot, which is again why she felt a little teenage. It was kind of like, are her hormones like getting the best of her? She's just like feeling all of these feelings towards all of these different people and doesn't really know like who to be with. But I also think the author did a good job of navigating that and the complexities of, I don't want to like spoil anything, but what she's been through and how that might affect her psyche. I'm giving it a 3.5. Could lean at 3.75. This wasn't a 4-star thriller for me. I know that much, but I had a decent time with it. Happy to have read it. Haven't found my first 5-star of the year yet, but it might be the next book. So let's put this into the graphic. I've officially fulfilled the first prompt in the first month of Buzzwordathon. I've never been able to say that before. And the idea was I read one book for that. I read one book for the cover thing. And if I find a book that fits both, which this didn't, then I can read something in one of my series, Veronica Speedwell, Magnolia Parks, or the Gideon the Ninth, or the Tomb, whatever it was called. And the one that I want to read the most is Daisy Hates. And you might notice if we look here together, see this cover? Maybe you've already thought this in your head. This is a pattern. So I didn't have to complete 2 challenges with one book because this is a pattern. So I can just read it and I fulfill the challenge with Daisy Hates. So we are gonna get into Daisy Hates bright and early tomorrow. This is the second in the Magnolia Parks series. It was my highest, Magnolia Parks was my highest rated romance, if you can call it romance, of 2024. This is a really divisive series. It's just about rich, annoying people in England. They're in their 20s and they have very messy dynamics, but the writing, it really got me. The emotions, the ways that the characters felt about each other, it did something for me. So I really hope this is a win. I can't imagine this being a 5-star, but if this is my first 5-star of the year, imagine. I'm currently up at Big White and I'm starting Daisy Hates today. I'm very excited. I listened to like 2 seconds of the audiobook. I barely remember who Daisy is, so maybe I should refresh myself like on the synopsis. The book doesn't even have the synopsis on the back, probably just this specific edition. All 20-year-old Daisy Hates has ever wanted is a normal life, but it's just not in the cards for her. Yeah, so it opened up saying that she wanted to experience like new things, like driving by herself and not being followed around by a bodyguard and just feeling more independent. She has an older brother, Julian, who's raised her because her parents died. I'm now remembering everything. And Julian is a gang lord. Julian's work means that Daisy's life is complicated, and things don't become any less complex when she falls hard for Christian Hems. So Christian is a guy in the book that she's sleeping with. They're not totally committed to each other. I'm sure they're maybe going to by the end, but they are sleeping together, but he's sleeping with a lot of other people, and it's just, you know, the mess of this whole group of characters' dynamics, and I think I'm gonna love it. I've actually seen people say they love Daisy Hates more than Magnolia Parks, so we'll see. We're about to head home. I took Liam and a friend snowboarding. They were snowboarding while I was reading. I only got 100 pages in. We've been up here for 5 hours, but I went out for lunch. I went for coffee with a friend up here, and now the boys are headed back down the mountain to meet me here. So my quick update before I start driving. I guess I thought, oh God, I look terrible, wrongly, that the first book was Magnolia's book, and it was focused on Magnolia, and then this was focused on Daisy, and like, we wouldn't really have all the same characters, but that doesn't even make sense when I think about it, because they're all so like fucked up and linked together. Like, they're all sleeping with each other, they all used to date each other, will date each other, so there is no Daisy book without Magnolia. So Magnolia is in the story, and her and Daisy each have like a thing with Christian, and at this point Christian is pretty into Daisy, Daisy's pretty into Christian, but can they really commit to each other? Probably not. I just love the way that Daisy talks about Magnolia, because she's such a bitch. Just hearing her inner thoughts, witnessing Magnolia and the things that she says about her, like, I don't know, she's like acknowledging she's like the perfect girl. Like, she's a little elven princess, and she like holds herself so perfectly in the way she speaks, and she's just so irritated by how perfect Magnolia is and how everyone's obsessed with Magnolia. But everyone, oh my God, is obsessed with Daisy. Every single man in this book, because we're also from the perspective of her brother who's trying to protect her. He has his own like arms dealing job, and all of his employees, all of his friends, like every single person is like obsessed with Daisy. I don't know who I'm really rooting for. I guess it's supposed to be Daisy and Christian, so whatever. I will say I'm a sucker for a teaching someone how to drive scene. Her sitting on Christian's lap learning how to drive, oh, that did it for me. I hate all of these characters, and I love their dynamics. What a time I am having with Daisy. First of all, it took me way too long to figure out that these are happening in the same timeline. These are the same timeline. You could tandem read them, like 3 chapters, 3 chapters, 3 chapters, 3 chapters. It took me until like a third of the way through to be like, wait, didn't this already happen? Didn't these boys already go on this trip? Didn't this conversation about Magnolia already happened? Didn't this fight already happen? We're reliving certain things from Magnolia Parks from someone else's perspective. We're seeing all the things that were being referenced in Magnolia Parks and what was actually happening. Oh my God, like, I'm so stupid. And apparently book 3 and 4 also do the same thing. So I'm wondering if I should try to read those in tandem, or at least read them really close together so I can remember like the things that I'm missing. Daisy Hates is much more intense. This one is intense emotionally, and this one is intense like plot wise. It's still not like a plot focused action book, but this is like mob stuff. Me liking a mob romance, who am I? There's just so much stuff about people being killed and them stealing stuff. Daisy and her love interests, plural, are not the focus of like the art dealings, but we do get Julian's chapters, Daisy's brother, and all the stuff that he's doing, and he's talking to all the people who are like bodyguards for Daisy and who have to protect Daisy and who like Daisy, and he has to make them stop. It's about who he trusts to be around Daisy, and Daisy is starting to make bad decisions, and I can just see this getting even more intense as it goes on. But her and Christian are just kind of a mess, And so she's got other guys on the side, and it's like, does she actually like them, or does she want to make Christian jealous? Is Christian actually ready to fully commit to Daisy? From his perspective and in his chapters, he totally is. He's like obsessed, and he's realizing that he's in love with her. Which, sorry, why am I so passionate? I think it's just because I finished a chapter that was so soul crushing, and like I remember reading this in Magnolia Parks, but being in Christian's mind, like you don't really, every character you don't like, but the way that they speak, you just like start to feel for. And Christian threw a wrench in between Magnolia and BJ, who are like the soulmates of the first book, right? And BJ is confronting him, and he's like, whatever you guys had, it wasn't about you. Like, she's not yours. She's never been yours, never will be. Whatever you briefly had with her, it was about me. It wasn't about you. It wasn't because she wanted you. It was because she missed me and she wanted me, and we couldn't be together. And like, I can't remember if we got that exact same conversation in here, but if we did, it hurts more now, being from Christian's perspective. He goes, and it's like funny at the same time. He's like, you know those videos on TikTok of that hydraulic press squashing everything you could ever possibly imagine being squashed? I am every single thing in every video they've ever made. Every ball, every water bottle, every lolly, every cake, every candle, I'm all of them flattened. Nothing I can say back. Everything he's just said out loud to my face is everything I've thought quietly inside my head since she and I ended. Every fear, every paranoia, and he just called it out like the fucking Powerball jackpot. And this series is just so crazy because it doesn't matter, like the things that I tell you about them. It doesn't matter if I think that Magnolia and BJ are endgame. Like this book, you're still gonna get convinced that Tom England is the one for her, or another guy is for her. And in here, like even though we know this childhood guy who like they have a connection that they can't deny, and they've been through all of this trauma together because Daisy has a really dark past. This book wants Daisy and Christian together. And as much as you can hate this other guy, you're still gonna want them together for some reason. And it's still gonna end in the exact same way that Magnolia Parks ended, with like nobody being happy. These are not romances. I don't know if they're love stories, but when they're both just like sleeping with other people along the way, like what even is it? It's toxic, and I'm eating it up. But it's also just like about nothing. It's just so much dialogue and texting and the footnotes. I just love a footnote, and every single page has a footnote. Daisy will say something and then it has a footnote. Some of the footnotes are literally just yeah, or exclamation points. I love it. I feel like it's ramping up and we're gonna get some craziness soon. Maybe emotionally crazy, or actually like death. I don't know, but I'm gonna read a little bit now, and I can't figure out if I want to finish it all in one day or make the vlog more fun and take you somewhere tomorrow. How is this romantic? Okay. Christian is professing his love to Daisy, but he's been actively sleeping with other people, and he's saying like, oh, I'm done now. Like I don't want to sleep with anyone else. I just want to sleep with you. And it's like, why does it feel to me and to Daisy like this great proclamation of love? Like, wow, thank you so much. You're not gonna fuck anybody else, and I'm supposed to think that I'm so special? But it feels romantic. This is so fucking weird, this book. Chapter 40? Chapter 40? The universe actually is ablaze. The planets lose track of their orbits. The birds and poets now, and all the songs written before this, and all the ones that'll come after this, are about this moment, about how we're standing. My ear rests right where his heart is, how one hand of his swallows a whole half of my waist. The beautiful nothingness of this, the most intimate moment of my life to date, a life that actually has been dotted with much intimacy, and I think nothing will ever beat him resting his chin on top of my head. Christian comes up behind her, slips his arms around my sister, chin on her head, knife in Rome's heart. Ah! There is crack inside these books. Daisy Hates is now complete, and I can pop it into the cover challenge. A book with a pattern is done. I've been trying to figure out how to explain why this series really works for me, and it's a combination of a couple things. For one, I think it's a book series that's full of characters who take themselves very seriously. It's very melodramatic. Everything is very intense. Everything is like the worst thing anybody has ever experienced. But at the same time, the book itself doesn't take itself too seriously. It all feels very tongue-in-cheek. There's something about the writing style that just makes me feel like Jessa Hastings is in on it with us. Like, she knows that this is stupid and ridiculous, and she's just serving it to us on a platter, and we eat it up. Another thing is the fact that it's like, it feels like teenage drama, but with an adult setting and with adult responsibilities. And yes, they're socialites and they don't have a lot of responsibilities. They are jet setting and they're shopping a lot, but the book is not necessarily about that. It's like what they're navigating emotionally and with each other whilst jet setting and shopping. It's the emotional turmoil that they're putting each other through, and it all feels very juvenile, but it's all just so very serious and high stakes at the same time. I didn't love this more because the setting was more of like a mob setting, so I didn't like it for that. So don't start recommending me mob romance, promise. That's not for me. But there really was this vibe of like Leonardo DiCaprio's Romeo and Juliet. And no matter what's happening in the pages, who's coupling up and who you're rooting for, and as much as it feels like you're on a journey for a certain relationship, and even if it feels like she's committing to something and something great is about to happen, she's gonna take it back 5 pages later. It's just constant chaos and turmoil, and I love the reading experience. I'm so excited to get into the 3rd book now. I don't know if I'll be able to anytime soon. So let me know, based on these challenges for next month, if you can think of any book that fulfills both of them for me, so I can continue with the series or get into the other ones. I'm sure you want me to read Harrow the Ninth the most, but we'll see what happens. So the next 2 challenges are something with a skyline and something with water words in the title. I do have a couple things in mind for the water words, but skyline is not something that exists on my TBR a lot, except in like romance books. I think maybe actually I might have some thrillers that have some skylines. I need to dive into my shelves, but if you can think of anything that fulfills both, I'm sure people would appreciate the recommendations in the comments. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me for my first vlog of the year. I'll see you in a couple more very soon, and then we'll go back into the buzzword readathon next month. Bye!